Hi, I'm Jason Gore for ThatShelf.com, and we're here to look at the release Veronica Electronica by Madonna.
Big shelf.
So this is a record decades in the making. Veronica Electronica is essentially a long-promised and long-coveted record from fans of another record, what I think is an absolute masterpiece. I'm not a huge fan of a lot of dance music from the 90s. I'm a huge fan of disco. I'm a huge fan of ABBA. I'm a huge fan of really good production. I'm a huge fan of good synth sounds. I'm a huge fan of excellent songwriting. I'm also a huge fan of prog, and all of that stuff is in here. Everything from Chris Muldoon to just incredible production by William Orbit. All the horror stories about him blowing up his Atari 1040 ST and all that stuff. Just really stunning orchestral, lavish, lush. This is Madonna right after she learned to sing, basically, in order to do Evita. This album is mega and magnificent, and one that is absolutely one of my top films of the 90s, one of my top records of the 90s, one of my top records, full stop, for the last forever. I use this as a demo all the time. You go to records shows, and they're usually playing all kinds of, noodly nonsense. And then I put this on just to show how a sound system can actually kick if it's actually tuned correctly. I have a couple versions of this, actually. We'll just show off. We'll celebrate all things Ray of Light. I actually ended up with sort of three versions of this for a sort of weird thing. What ended up happening was actually had a version of this, and it was like distorting on my turntable, and I just couldn't understand why. And then I realized it was actually a problem with my cartridge, and this was the record that actually demonstrated it. And it was odd because one pressing would actually do it and the other one would not, is what it is. I'm just showing these here because nothing would make me happier than for this record to be given some sort of true audiophile release like they did with Thriller, like to do UHQR or something like this. Yeah, it's a digital recording, but for this to be stretched over 45 RPM, to be pressed on immaculate vinyl, immaculate collection, as it were, that would be amazing. I would absolutely adore that. I have a cat screaming for no good reason. You can probably hear in the background, or maybe not. She is meowing. So speaking of meowing, this is a 12-inch single from that particular release. This is the Ray of Light, including a bunch of mixes by some pretty prestigious people, Victor Calderón, etc. So there's actually two records that are actually associated with this one. This one is, record one, side A, Ray of Light, the Sasha Ultraviolet mix, the Sasha Stripped Down mix, the Victor Calderón Club mix, and the William Orbit Liquid mix. This is, inevitably what would happen is that there would be, not only would it be a sort of electronic EDM, as or pre-EDM version of all the elements, but then there would be additional club mixes, and that's what you actually get with this 12-inch. This one, record 2, side C and D. So this is Ray of Light, the Sasha Twillo mix, 10 minutes and 58 seconds. The Victor Calderón drum mix, 5:26. The William Orbit Ultraviolet mix, the 6 minute and 59 version. And then the album version at 5 minutes and 21. So this was a way that you could actually get some of the original mixes that were actually associated with 12 inches like this. I don't have a 12-inch. I mean, Frozen obviously had a bunch of dance mixes, etc. I did end up actually getting this exact same thing. This is a CD single from back in the day that has, it's just all Sasha Twillo, Victor Calderón drum, and the Orbit Ultraviolet mix incorporated onto the CD single that I still have sort of kicking around. So then you may ask, what's the big deal about this thing? Well, this was always threatened to be, as it were, a sort of companion piece to Ray of Light. There's talk, decades ago, about there being, of the title track, like a 10-minute, 51 seconds, something ridiculous like that, version of that, the original album style mix that was going to be released on this Veronica Electronica. It became sort of a cheeky way of articulating what at the time was the type of music that was sort of being branded by the record labels as electronica, much to many people's chagrin. This is sort of a post-grunge, pre sort of tween pop era where, you know, things like Prodigy, things like Chemical Brothers eventually would lead into people like Daft Punk, obviously would lead into Moby, etc. But sort of Madonna here at her around 40, after she's been doing all her crazy power ballads and all that stuff, sort of electronically infused, doing tons of club remixes, etc., and still finding a great deal of success on that front, was meant to release this. And here we are in 2025, finally getting this. This is the limited edition, 8-track celebrating Madonna's Ray of Light album, featuring rare and newly edited remixes, plus the previously unreleased Gone, Gone, Gone. So the one track on here that's from those sessions that was never released is Gone, Gone, Gone. I look forward to listening to it. And it's all remastered and pressed on silver vinyl. So hypothetically, this will sound better than those. So what do we have here? We have the Drown World Substitute for Love, which is the BT and Sasha Bucklodge Ashram new edit. That's nice of them to do a new edit. We have Ray of Light, which is a Sasha Twillo mix edit. So again, I believe an edit of the some of the stuff that's on the other 12-inch. We have Skin, which is the collaboration remix edit. And we have Nothing Really Matters, the Club 69 speed mix meets the tub. Fascinating. So that's all on side A, or side 1. Side 2, we have Sky Fits Heaven, the Victor Calderon feature new edit. We have Frozen, the widescreen mix and drums. We have The Power Goodbye, which is Fabian's Good God mix edit. And we have Gone, 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 the original demo version. Now, this is not a club, but what's interesting with this is, like, a bunch of these edits, I'm not a huge fan of a lot of dance edits. They usually become really repetitive. I had a lot of 12-inch singles that I collected when I first started getting into vinyl, because they're super cheap to get. You can just pick them up a lot. But actually, I mean, I'm not going to bother showing it. I think I showed another video. But the first time I walked into a record store and saw a song that I loved, I just saw Duran Duran, and I thought, why is it called The Reflex? It's Seven and the Ragged Tiger, the album. And I realized, oh, these 12-inch singles, I didn't know at the time, used by DJs, etc., not just, you know, radio DJs, but actually club DJs, would have extended versions, would stretch out the song. And again, I was sort of confused as to why the version of the Reflex on the record sounded different than the one I had on 45. And the one on 45 just sounded so much better when it was extended, because I could hear all these elements, all these other stuff that different mixers can have. And in that sense of theme and variation, again, these are never really definitive for me. I'm not really listening to it as a way of, like, getting it into sort of a club zone. The original album is obviously very clubby to start with. It's that sort of Willie Morbid sound. But I am fascinated about what people can do when they have, you know, back in the day when they were given stems, given essentially carte blanche to do what they wanted to do. So it's another way of me appreciating the original mix, if that makes any sense. That when you have something like this isn't a remake or a replacement. It's basically, I will hear elements in here and think, oh man, where did they get that? Is that just coming from the middle of nowhere, or is that buried in the original mix and I didn't really notice it? So that's some of the fun that we're going to have. Anyway, let's crack it open, see what it's like. And I'm, for one, am excited that this is part of the collection. There was that massive Madonna box set of all of her dance singles, which sold out very quickly. I do appreciate that. I really would love that they would release every A and a B side of every single she did, not the dance versions, but the actual normal A and B sides as well. But that's another conversation to have. Sure, we will get that one day. So yeah, not a gatefold, obviously, very mirrored, very hard to see on camera, but you get it. There's a photo of her, and there's a photo. It's going to be very challenging to see with the reflection, but it's basically this ghostly vision of her from the Ray of Light sessions. We have this on the back, which is the sort of iconography that they had. And this is interesting because inside this, right, which was shrink wrapped, I then have this inner, which also is shrink wrap. So I've never had this before, that the actual inner is also, this might have been the way that they were actually going to originally release it. And so yeah, all tracks previously unreleased. Original versions available on the Maverick Ray of Light, except Gone, Gone, Gone. So here we are. So it actually says, yeah, so who wrote, interesting, The Drowned World Substitute for Love, written by Anita Kerr, David Collins, Madonna, Rob McCune, and William Orbit. Remix and additional production by Brian Transo and Sasha. And then there's Ray of Light, which is written by Madonna, William Orbit, Clive Muldoon, David Curtis, so it's the Curtis Muldoon, and Christine Lynch. And then the remix, etc., etc., etc. So just a bunch of details. And then the Veronica Electronica, this particular release, produced by Madonna, creative direction by Johan Delabar, remix, editing, and mastering by Dan Hirsch and Bill Ingrid, and then new photography. And then, Warner sort of championing this. So you can see this sort of wild, dual exposure photo of her. And let's try to see how this sucker actually opens. It's not on the side. I think it's actually top opener. This is frustrating because I don't want to mess things up. I only want to open it as much as I need to, because I'm neurotic. I guess I can put this whole thing in a 10-inch sleeve. Yep, okay, so I got it correctly. It is indeed a top opener. So I can keep the inner shrink on as it goes in there and keep it as pristine as possible. And inside here, not a paper lined sleeve, unfortunately. But yeah, how interesting. It's that has shrink, the outer has shrink, and this is the absolutely luminous record. It's a stunning sort of smoky, wild. That again, this is not going to turn out on camera. It's probably pretty useless. But this is like, it's sort of a silvery, absolutely wild, almost mirrored finish. Looks very liquid, very, very cool. I'm super happy to get the limited edition. Shout out to Cops Records here in Toronto that had a copy. I cannot wait to actually give this a spin. This is the latest Madonna release, first one I bought in some time. While I'm here, shout out to all the people that control the Madonna music. For God's sakes, release the Evita soundtrack on vinyl. Make it happen. Anyway, Veronica Electronica here at thatshelf.com. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Jason Gorber. Please subscribe, ring the bell, follow us on social media, support local record stores, do all of that stuff. Leave me a comment to know what you think about this particular era of Madonna. I'll see you next video. All the best. Take care.